last item because I'll ask for commissioner comments after this before closed session. I have a discussion about agenda order, and I'll take the responsibility or the blame or whatever you want to give me on this, but I believe that we really need to move the public comment section of our agenda to after our business meeting, at the end of it, let's put it that way. First, because of efficiency, I think as chairman, I felt the real need to move things along and be fair and listen to everybody, let everybody have their say. The public comments varies in time. From today, it was pretty short, to last time it was around 40-45 minutes. And we do have our order of business, informal comments, Rule 10 in our rules and procedures does speak to that. But for me as chair, I think the tone and efficiency of the meeting would be better if we could do our business, do the county's business, and then listen to our constituents, to our citizens. Secondly, and today's a perfect example of my main concern, and that is people sat here for 2 hours before they could get up and give their report. And these are guys who are employed. They took time off from their work or their business to come and speak to us, and took at least 2 hours out, lasted till lunchtime, at least for some of them. If we could have on our agenda an approximate time, and I think this has been done in the past, where if someone is going to give a report somewhere around 10:30, then they could show up at about 10:20 or so and give the report and then leave, and not have to sit for 2 hours. Now, if they chose to come, that's great. We welcome them here, but I would say we need to respect people's schedules and obligations. And the third thing that I would cite as the reason that I've thought about this is my constituents, people who talk to me, have said we need to do something about public comments to refine the process a little bit. And many of the suggestions have been move it to the end of the business meeting. So I'm listening to the citizens' suggestions. There's been a steady stream of people talking to me, especially since December, about doing something about this. So that's why I'm putting this proposal out there. I have a motion that I would put forward to see if it gets a second. I would move that we move permanently the 30-minute public comment part of the meeting to the end of our business meeting, and abide by the current rules and procedures regarding Rule 10, informal public comments. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. It's time for discussion.
Now, this motion is just when the public comments happen. And that's from the beginning of the meeting to the end. That's it. The change in when it occurs.
Our rules and procedures that we adopted in December, and that was adopted before that, says the county manager clerk shall include on the agenda of each regular meeting a period of at least 30 minutes for comments or questions from members of the public in attendance. So it doesn't change that, it just moves it from beginning to this point, really, this point in the meeting where we concluded the county business and are able to listen to citizens.
Are you also suggesting to set time frames for the agenda? Because I sat here and watched all these county employees wasting 2 hours, some of them sitting here watching this meeting where they could be working.
Well, it is a great concern to me, as I said, because today's a perfect example. Don, help me out. Can you make that part of this agenda, this motion?
Yeah, I mean, that's how it used to be. I mean, this isn't new Public comments have been in the back and the front, it all depends on the board. When the public comments were at the end, I can take you back to the minutes. If you wish to put times on it, then what we would end up doing is as the agenda got set, literally, let's just use Clark for today, because they did go pretty good with. I would sit there and go to Clark and say, Clark, you got 20 minutes, brother. And then I would tell Clark, you know, obviously, it's a different conversation with staff than it is with the public. You know, I can estimate the public, but I can give a more direct order to staff to say, you better keep it within 15, 20 minutes or however long. You know, if it's the general public, then ultimately, I'll try to talk to them and get an estimate, but it's up to this board to regulate their time. I mean, I can try to give them an estimated time, but that's how it used to be. And then you could actually give estimated times of when people come. It does, I've seen it done in the past. Sometimes you go faster than that estimated time. And then if you read your current rules allows for the agenda to be, it allows for the clerk and the county manager to set the agenda, first of all. This particular case, where the public comment sections are, was ruled by a previous board years and years ago to move it to the front versus the back. And I mean, this is probably 8 to 10 years, this is multiple boards ago, not just the last board. Excuse me. But then when we used to have times on this, what would happen is if somebody finished quicker, then, you know, it also allows for flexibility for the chair to call the agenda items as necessary without any objection from other board members. So if somebody finished quick, then you would recognize somebody else, and you kind of just go with the flow of how the meeting happens. But yes, there have been, when the public comments were on the back, we were putting times on the presenters.
I would like to see that. I think it would be an advantage.
I'm a little hesitant on the time limits as far as when the public
What we're
I'm not talking about time limits. I'm
Well,
just talking about setting times, specific times for agenda items, such as Teresa and Amy and Brad could have been set for 11 o'clock.
Well, for instance, Mr. Clark was long. but-
Yes, and we could have told him he had 15 minutes.
Or I could have put 30 minutes on there for Clark.
Yes.
See, I knew Clark would be a little bit longer today, so when I talked to Clark, I would have put 30 minutes on the agenda for the simple fact I'd asked Clark to do a little bit of background. You know, anything future with Clark, it's gonna be a 2-page, quickly, this is what we've done in the last month. But, I would have put 30 minutes for Clark.
I've attended county commissioner meetings when they had that on the agenda, and it was nice.
Teresa and Brad and Amy could have shown up in quarter flat
Yes,
instead of 10.
right.
That's my opinion. To be
I wasn't
respectful of
talking about
people's
time limits.
jobs.
One thing to remember though is we work and we serve at the pleasure of the people and the public, and they're the people that put us there, here. They're the most important people in Allegheny County.
Exactly.
They pay the bills, they pay the taxes. Putting them off to last is offensive to me, and I will not vote for that. Setting a time limit of department managers and giving them a rough time, I would have no problem with that. One thing to remember though, I mean, this board is discussed and brought up on how important economic development was and how important it was, and we were wasting time on other things, but now you want to limit time on economic development, which really doesn't make sense to me, but I can see for the, you know, the benefit of certain departments in the county that yes, if you say they show up at 10:15, roughly around 10:15, they would get on the agenda. But yeah, and that is, you know, at the chair's discretion as far as, you know, moving items along. But putting public comments to the back, no, I cannot support that.
Any further questions or discussion? All I know is people that have talked to me, and they may not be the same people that talk to me, but people, we all have our constituents.
Yeah, I'm sure we
People
talk to some different people. But
say, you need to do something. So this is an attempt to respond to that, but I'll tell you the honest truth, the getting people here 2 hours ahead of time they're gonna speak is a major concern to me. It would help us move along.
Could they not comment on what we met on that day? Commented on that?
I had that very same comment made to me today. At the meeting.
Well, certainly they can, but obviously anyone can look at the agenda, and it's out Wednesday at noon before the meeting. And they know they don't hear everything, but, you know, they know what's gonna be discussed, and they can tailor their comments then at that point, you know, to that agenda item, if that's what they wish to do, or they can talk about whatever they want. And again, we serve at their pleasure. We work for them.
I agree with that, and, again, people, they're talking to me, I am trying to do this at their pleasure.
And that's fine.
So, but yes, speaking on things that we've done, I had a comment made at our recess, the very same thing, you know, we'd be able to comment immediately without waiting 2 weeks to do it, which I thought that sounds good to me. Any further discussion?
I think that, I don't see it necessarily as offensive, I see it as reasonable and as far as what order the public comments come in and maybe respectful of other people's times first.
As you can see, all the employees are gone, they're gone to work, so it's an efficient use of their time.
But if you remember, the first comment that our chairman made is today's public comments didn't go that long, so it's not the public comments that held the people sitting in these chairs. Remember that?
Not today.
Not today.
Not today, but you just pointed that out.
You're right. You're right. Okay, if there's no further discussion,
I would like to make another comment. Mr. Goodrow, I'm not trying to diminish the BDC's or the economic development time. That was not part of my
Neither am I.
comment. I just think it would be a good, efficient use of time if the employees knew what time limit, or not even a time limit. How can you
And I
let
agree. I
them
have
tell
no
us how
problem
much
with that.
time that they need, and then we can work with that.
I have no problem with it.
all right, all those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
All right.
4-1. I want to ask if any commissioners have further comments or updates that they would like to share. I know we've gone long, but I want to say one thing that, because you guys were just talking about it right before we took a vote, and I want to say how much I appreciate both of you for zeroing in on the economic development. And I think now it's going to be kind of maybe not every meeting, but it'll be in front of our face often. And so to Mr. Goodrow and to Ms. Lees, I appreciate you all pushing that agenda as well. And, you know, we talked about it early in December a little bit, and but we just need to keep it there in front of our face. So thank you for both of that. Thank you both for that.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Lees.
I would like to ask the boards, I would like to make a motion, and I'll give you some information beforehand. Rocky Profit is requesting from the North Carolina Community Foundation to release an endowment that he set up through NAPCO of $11,550. He's asking for them to release these funds to the Wellness Center. If you know anything about the North Carolina Community Foundation, they do a wonderful job, and when they collect funds and do their fundraisers, they set up the funds in a permanent account, and they allow the use of the interest, but not the use of the principal. Well, he's asking for the principal to be released of $11,550. He's asking for support in the community to get this done, and it's just rare that this organization releases funds, and I thought it would be useful if the North Carolina Community Foundation saw that the commissioners approved and supported his request. So I make a motion that Manager Don Adams gets a letter together in support of this initiative, and I have a letter, I think each one of you have a copy of it, that Rocky has put together, and it has the words in it that it'll be pretty easy to develop a letter in support, and in the end, we will help our wellness center. This is what Rocky Profit would like to do, and I would like to support his endeavor. I make that motion.
And these,
Simply just for us to direct Don Adams and Karen Evans to develop a letter in support of Rocky's request to the North Carolina Community Foundation.
and these were his funds
This
to
was
begin
his
with?
funds to begin with, and he gave it years ago.
And now he's just
And he's
asking.
asking for it to be released, to be used for, in his words, reflooring the 2 multi-purpose rooms at the Allegheny Wellness Center.
One thing I think I would need to know before I could, second that or vote for that, if the charter of the foundation allows that in the way the monies were, given, if he's able to do that. And I would need to see that
I have,
and probably get an opinion from our attorney before, I went forward with a second or supporting it. And if fine, as long as she reviews it, it's fine, then yes, I got no problem with it.
okay.
Don, do you have any knowledge of
Yeah,
this and how it works?
I'm recently off the community foundation.
Yeah,
Pretty much very knowledgeable. I know that the community foundation is talking about this. I know that they're gonna have a board meeting. I'm actually just recently, I decided not to get reappointed to that, so I haven't been in the last conversations. Where this board plays a role in this, I have no idea. I mean, I do know that it's, I do know from the community foundation standpoint, that, they do have to go through and get some type of support, and I'm not really sure how it works.
It's simply, I'm asking this group's support for Rocky Profit. And they have, I have a copy of an email from John Francis in that North Carolina Community Foundation. And he said, as the case is here, a totally reasonable and valid argument can be made while money tied up in this fund would have a greater impact through another use. So that's him speaking from that organization.
okay, we have a motion, is there a second, or, Commissioner Woodrow said he'd like to have one more time.
Well,
It's still
I
here.
didn't say this, but it is of utmost importance to get it done today or tomorrow morning because this lady is going to make the decision on Wednesday.
Well, if this is money that an individual has donated to this group,
Yes.
and I assume people use that for projects
Yes.
all the time?
Yes.
This isn't unprecedented, I wouldn't think.
Yes.
And now, just to get it right, there's a North Carolina Community Foundation, and all of this was raised locally.
Right.
Yeah, and
This
what-
was raised locally by Rocky Profit. He donated the money.
And it was put in an endowment fund. The endowment fund, the concept behind the endowment fund is basically that you use the interest or the investment earnings annually to do something with that. So you don't spend the principal. And an endowment fund, usually the intentions of endowment fund is continued fundraising. So you do it, there is a community foundation endowment fund that they're continuously fundraising for because they need the money to be larger. Right now, they're giving away, the main thing for community foundation, they're giving away probably about $3,000 to $5,000 a year. But, they've got over $100,000 in savings. And the idea is that an endowment fund is it's now and forever. So I think what's probably, I don't know what Rocky did, but I would assume that he intentionally started an endowment fund that would be continuous fundraising thinking that it would always benefit the wellness center or whoever the primary purpose, but apparently there must not have been any more fundraising. So now what you have is about $11,000 tied up in an endowment fund that's not producing any, not any significant returns. And so then you get into the legalese of, I don't really know how the endowment fund was set up and things of that nature. So
And I think
that's
that's
where I'm
something we definitely need to know before we can put our name to it.
I simply wanted to support Rocky Profit in his request. That was
And I
mine.
understand that, and I've got no problem, but before signing the document, we need to make sure that legally, it's something we can do.
Well, it's not our money.
No, that's right, it was Rocky's money, but it depends on how the endowment fund was set up. And we have no idea what the endowment fund says in the release of the money. So voting on it, I don't think we can, take a position on it right now.
Any others? So far, there's no second.
Has Rocky run into a problem as far as him getting this money?
He has written this letter requesting this. So,
To Mr. Whiteside?
yes, and he is gathering community support. So I thought it would be a nice gesture from this Board of Commissioners to support his request. I didn't mean for it to be a problem.
Well, I don't think anybody's trying to make it a problem, but there are some valid points.
Well, if it's not legal for them to release this money, then, that's their issue. It's simply Rocky's trying to get community support for his request. He's called several folks around the county and asked them to contact. And I thought it would be a strong gesture to come from the county commissioners.
Do I hear from anyone? Well, I'll second it, just so we can discuss it. Vote on it. We've already discussed it pretty much. I think we're reticent, unsure about doing this, kind of without some legal guidance on it. At least that's what I'm hearing from the board.
Well, you could put in your letter, upon receiving legal advice that this procedure can be attained.
Any other comments?
Well, I would personally like to see a letter, and know what was signed.
You would prefer a letter be
If we want to craft a letter and
on county commissioner letterhead?
That's
Is
my
that-
recommendation, yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Then all in support of the motion made by Commissioner Lees, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
All right.
oh, no,
3-2.
Okay. I would like to, for those of you that don't know, Rocky Profit has been elected to the North Carolina Economic Rural Developmental Center Board of Directors on the statewide board, and that's a really nice thing for our county. It's nice to have a positive voice, and he'll make opportunities happen for us. I also noticed that he's number 12 on the highest Allegheny County taxpayers. So I certainly want to support him, and I appreciate everything he does for us.
Is there any other comments, commissioner comments?
No, sir.
I want to say one thing, at the risk of making it longer, but it was last Friday. This was a serendipitous meeting. Representative Elmore was at the town office conferring with the town on a matter, town matter. And I was able to, or Don was able to talk with him, and he came over. Commissioner Smith happened by, and we did talk with Representative Elmore last week on such things as Medicaid transportation, the DOT equity funding formula for rural counties, economic development, the ag extension position, and I know there were some other things, Don, that we were able to talk with them about. Anything else that comes to mind?
Not anything that comes to mind.
But I'd like to say I appreciate Representative Elmore just dropping in by and spending some time, even though he hadn't planned to be with us, but I appreciate that. He seems to have the best for Allegheny at heart. He's kind of a down-home fellow, I think, and he's really concerned about Allegheny, and I appreciate that. Any other comments? If not, then we need to go into closed session on North Carolina General Statutes 143-318, 11A6, which is personnel. I would entertain a motion to do that. Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye.